Hello Flutes. Here's a helpful video for Etude number 2. Okay? First thing you need to look at is your key signature, as always. Now this key signature, you may not, as a young student, you might not have read in this key very many times. It's the key signature that matches your G scale. So we're going to have no flats, right? You can see I've already marked a B natural, because we're so used to playing B flat in a lot of our band music. It's smart to go ahead and mark the B naturals, and you'll see I marked the lower B here. I put a natural above it. So we have B natural, we have A natural, we have E natural, just as I marked that E natural right there, and then of course we have F sharp. All right, so it's smart to go ahead and start marking the key signature to help learn it without making mistakes. Right, because if you practice it and you accidentally press down F natural or E flat or B flat, then that repetition is kind of a wash. You actually just practiced it wrong, right? So if we can practice it as correctly as possible, that makes your practice more efficient, right? So it's smart to go ahead and mark a lot of these, especially the ones that you think you might miss the most. And to kind of scan the music for accidentals. We have some C sharps. That's the same note as D flat. It's in harmonic with D flat. So when you see that C sharp, you're going to play a D flat. That might help you figure that out. Let's see. So you could go ahead and you could mark all of them. Might be good to get to measure 5, mark another F sharp. Same thing over here in measure 8, another F sharp. Okay, so that's enough to get us started. So let's go ahead and look at the next thing we should look at would be the rhythms and the time signature. Okay, so we've got a C here with a slash through it. When you have a C by itself, that's common time, but when we put that slash through it, it's actually this, cut time. Okay, so we call it cut time. It's actually the same thing. You can see I faintly wrote it as 2/2 time. Okay, so that's what cut time is. It's there's lots of ways of processing it. If you're used to processing key signatures with the numbers, then you would see there's 2 beats per measure, and a half note would get the beat, and that's when we're finished working on it. So you'll notice here, look at the tempo marking, half note equals. So the half note gets the beat when you're finished working on this piece. Another way to think about cut time that helps a lot of students is to just think about every note is cut in half from what we're used to, which is probably 4/4 time. And so the note durations are cut in half. So a half note's usually 2 beats, right, in 4/4 time. If we cut 2 beats in half, then it's now 1 beat, right? A quarter note used to get 1 beat, right? Like this first note. Well, in cut time, it would get half of a beat. So you would count it like 1 and 2 and, right? Okay, and then eighth notes usually get half a beat, but they're going to get 1/4 of a beat. So if I were going to count this in cut time, I'd count and 1, 2, E, and 1, and that's how I would count it. But that's pretty fast, especially considering it's in G major. So I don't recommend learning this in cut time. So why did I talk about cut time so much? Because as a musician, it's good to know what cut time is, and it's good to know what your end goal is. All right, so we're going to actually learn this in 4/4 time. That's the smart way to do this. So we're going to give the quarter note the beat, and we're going to tap our foot to the quarter note like we're used to. Okay, and so we're going to put it. You can put your metronome on all. It's wise to choose a not too fast a tempo. This is 80 beats per minute. Okay. So if I were counting this at 80 beats per minute in 4/4 time, I would wait for beat 4, so I would think 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 3, and 4, and 1, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, 4, 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, and 4, and 1, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, 4, 1. Whoop, sorry, line break messed me up. Measure 8. Here I go. 1 and 3 and 4 and 1, 3 and 4 and 1, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 1, 3. And so there's the first 12 measures. That's pretty simple, right? I mean, for the most part, you've probably seen quarter notes and eighth notes and half notes before, right? So that's not really hard counting. The dotted quarter may be something that you're not as familiar with, like it's 1.5 beats. Let me demonstrate that dotted quarter again. Measure 8. 1 and 3. So that would go D, D, E, right? And make sure you tongue the D and then tongue E, right? So da, 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 and then once you get to E, you're going to slur this all the way until you get to B. And then when you get to B, you have to tongue again. So da, 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 or da, 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 something like that, okay? That's how the articulation would go, all right? Look over here. You see this dot above the first note? It's called a staccato. That means you're going to separate. All right, so this is going to be shorter. It's going to have silence between the D and the B. Da, da. Or maybe hear what your private lesson teacher asks for. I would copy them and do exactly what they ask for if you have a private teacher. Okay, and pay close attention to the articulation here, right? So we have half note, D, ya, da, da, half note, right? One, tongue slur, tongue, tongue, tongue. D, da, da, da. Get those articulations. That's super important in this etude, getting the articulations right, which they change from time to time. We have a lot of this 2 notes slurred together, followed by a bunch of articulated notes, right? So you got to get used to that pattern. Like look over here at measure 5, 6, 7. We have da. Let me put that metronome on. It's going to go da, 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 dee, da, da, dee, da, 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 da. And I'm not singing the pitches right, but I'm showing you the rhythm and the articulation there, right? Okay. So it's a good practice, like what I just said on da and dee, da, da, and all of that. Practice articulating and fingering it in rhythm. That's a really smart way with a metronome, a smart way to practice it. I highly recommend you do that. You know, maybe if you play it once, articulate it and finger, you know, those are really smart things to do. Okay, let's see if there's any other rhythms that I need to cover. Oh, look at measure 17 and 18. This is a funky part of this piece because the articulation pattern is different. You'll see we've got the first note tongued, and then 2 slur, 2 slur, 2 slur, 2 slur. So dot dee 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 dot da. All right, which feels really weird when we put it with the metronome because you get a lot of upbeats with the articulations, but you got the accents on the downbeats. You see the accent is on beat 3 here and on beat 4. So it's going to go da dee da 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 da. And I would consult your private teacher about how long the notes need to be when you're coming out of the slur. You know, if they should be full value or if you should separate it all. Let your private teacher help define that, or your band teacher. Okay, I think we've got the same kind of thing going on at 21, the same pattern with the articulations. So that should about cover it. Make sure you hold the last note for 2 full beats, please. You know, there aren't a whole lot of half notes, and so those little things like that are important. Okay, so hopefully this helps you get off to a start. Best of luck.